Before we begin, I need you to stop everything for just a moment and listen carefully, because what you're about to hear is not ordinary. This is not just another motivational speech. This is a message that could change the direction of your life, protect your future, prevent you from walking into something you were never meant to face. God has been trying to warn you about something, and this is the moment to pay attention. Maybe you've been feeling uneasy, restless, or like something is not quite right. Maybe doors keep closing, plans keep shifting, or people keep acting in unexpected ways. That is not coincidence. That is a signal from God, a warning, a divine red flag telling you to pause, to reflect, and to act before it's too late. Over the next few minutes, you will hear a message that will awaken your spirit, sharpen your discernment, and prepare you to respond to the warnings that God has been sending you. If you ignore this, you risk missing the protection, favor, and blessings that are ready to be released in your life. But if you pay attention and listen carefully, it could be the turning point you've been praying for. So I need you to give these next minutes your full attention. Don't scroll, don't get distracted, don't dismiss this as just another video. What you hear today could save you from loss, guide you to breakthrough, and align you with the destiny God has prepared just for you. Take a deep breath. Open your heart and prepare yourself, because God is about to speak, and this is a warning you cannot afford to ignore. The idea that God speaks through warning signs is a profound truth about how divine guidance operates in our daily lives. Many people think that God only communicates through dramatic visions, audible voices, or extraordinary miracles, but often his guidance comes in subtle, quiet, and easily overlooked ways. He can use circumstances, feelings, thoughts, or even physical sensations to alert a person to danger, missteps, or choices that could derail their destiny. These warnings are not meant to frighten or control, but to protect, guide, and prepare the heart for what lies ahead. Understanding that God uses everyday moments as instruments of warning helps a person become more attentive and sensitive to his voice in all areas of life. God may speak through external circumstances in a way that seems coincidental, but in reality, it is divinely orchestrated. A sudden obstacle, an unexpected delay, a closed door may appear inconvenient at the moment, yet these interruptions often carry a message. They are signals to pause, reflect, and reconsider the path being taken. For instance, a cancelled meeting, a missed opportunity, or a sudden change in plans could be a warning that the timing or direction is not right. Recognizing these signs as divine guidance requires a heart attuned to God and a willingness to interpret situations spiritually rather than purely through human logic. Emotions and inner impressions are another channel through which God warns his people. Feelings of unease, fear, restlessness, or even a persistent sense of doubt are not always negative. They can serve as spiritual alarms alerting a person to pay attention. These sensations may seem subtle or dismissible, but they often carry significant weight. For example, a persistent feeling that something is not right in a decision may indicate that God is signaling a need to stop or change direction. Learning to distinguish between ordinary anxiety and divine warning is a skill developed through prayer, reflection, and sensitivity to the Spirit. God also uses the words and advice of others to communicate warnings. Friends, mentors, or even strangers may speak truth that resonates deeply and points toward caution. While humans can err, God can position people strategically to deliver messages that the heart is meant to hear. Listening carefully to such counsel, especially when it aligns with scripture or spiritual conviction, can be a vital way to discern God's warning before it becomes urgent. These warning signs are an act of love. God does not wish for his children to stumble unnecessarily or endure avoidable hardships. By sending warnings, he provides opportunities to course correct, make better decisions, and avoid pitfalls. They are meant to protect not only physical or material well-being, but also spiritual health and destiny. The challenge lies in being attentive enough to notice them, humble enough to acknowledge them, and courageous enough to act on them. Those who learn to recognize and respond to God's warning signs discover that many crises are averted before they fully arise, and many blessings are preserved because they heeded the quiet nudges of the Spirit. The idea that ignoring God's warnings can delay destiny underscores a critical truth about spiritual responsiveness and its impact on a person's life trajectory. God's guidance is not merely advisory, it is protective and directive, designed to position a person for the fulfillment of their purpose. When warnings are ignored, either due to pride, distraction, or skepticism, the natural consequences of wrong decisions often unfold. These consequences are not always immediate, which can make it tempting to dismiss or rationalize the warning, but over time, ignoring divine guidance can create setbacks, prolong struggles, and obscure the path to breakthrough. Destiny is shaped not only by ambition and effort, but also by the wisdom to heed God's timely alerts. Ignoring warnings often allows a person to walk into situations that could have been avoided. For example, a decision that seems harmless on the surface may contain hidden risks that God is trying to reveal through subtle signs, feelings, or counsel. When these signals are disregarded, the individual may encounter delays, failures, or relational complications that impede progress. The longer one resists God's warning, the more entrenched these obstacles can become, making it harder to regain clarity and realign with the intended path. In this way, ignoring guidance doesn't just postpone blessing, it can create a period of unnecessary struggle that could have been avoided with obedience. There is also a spiritual dimension to ignoring God's warnings. When a person neglects or dismisses God's voice, they may experience a sense of unease, frustration, or spiritual dryness. These feelings often serve as indicators that alignment with God's will has been compromised. By not pausing to reflect and respond, the heart becomes increasingly disconnected from divine direction, and clarity about the next steps becomes clouded. This spiritual misalignment can delay opportunities for growth, reduce effectiveness in decision-making, and diminish the ability to recognize the blessings that God is ready to release. On the other hand, heeding God's warnings positions a person to move forward with confidence. Obedience allows the path to open, circumstances to align, and divine timing to unfold correctly. When a warning is recognized and acted upon, it often prevents unnecessary setbacks and positions the person to receive opportunities they might have missed if they continued in their original course. The contrast is clear. Responding to warnings accelerates destiny, while ignoring them creates friction, delay, and sometimes even loss. Ignorance of warning can also create a cycle of repeated lessons. God may repeat the same warning through different channels, circumstances, people, scripture, or intuition until the heart becomes sensitive enough to respond. Each ignored warning prolongs the lesson, extending the waiting period and increasing the cost of learning it. Conversely, the first act of obedience can break this cycle, opening the door to clarity, favor, and alignment with purpose. Ultimately, understanding the connection between heeding warnings and destiny emphasizes that God's alerts are not restrictive. They are protective and empowering. Those who learn to stop, listen, and respond find that God's warnings accelerate their journey, safeguard their blessings, and ensure that they are walking in the fullness of the destiny He intended for them. The idea that spiritual discernment is essential to recognizing God's warnings highlights the importance of cultivating sensitivity to the voice of the Spirit. God often communicates through subtle impressions, feelings, or thoughts that may not be obvious at first glance, and without discernment, these messages can easily be ignored or misunderstood. Spiritual discernment is the ability to distinguish between ordinary thoughts, emotions, or external influences and the direct guidance of God. It allows a person to detect warnings, receive clarity, and make decisions that align with divine timing and purpose. Without discernment, a person may continue on a path that seems reasonable or appealing, but is ultimately misaligned with God's plan. Discernment begins with a heart that is attuned to God and committed to seeking His guidance above all else. It requires intentional prayer, meditation on Scripture, and a willingness to listen for the subtle prompts of the Spirit. Often God's warnings do not come in loud or dramatic ways. They appear as quiet nudges, uneasy feelings, or persistent thoughts that do not go away. A spiritually discerning person recognizes these moments as significant and takes time to investigate and respond rather than dismissing them as coincidence, fear, imagination. This sensitivity grows over time as a person practices obedience to small promptings and learns to trust God's timing. One of the challenges in developing discernment is the presence of competing voices. The human mind is constantly influenced by emotions, past experiences, societal expectations, and the opinions of others. These influences can cloud judgment and make it difficult to recognize God's warnings. Spiritual discernment acts as a filter, separating divine guidance from these distractions. It allows a person to evaluate circumstances, thoughts, and advice in the light of God's truth, ensuring that decisions are based on alignment with His will rather than on temporary feelings or external pressures. Discernment also helps a person recognize the urgency of certain warnings. Some guidance from God requires immediate attention to prevent harm or missed opportunities, while other warnings serve as longer-term preparation for future circumstances. Without discernment, a person may fail to act promptly or may overreact to situations that require patience. By cultivating the ability to interpret God's voice accurately, a person can respond appropriately, knowing when to pause, when to act, and when to seek additional confirmation through prayer or counsel. Furthermore, spiritual discernment strengthens faith. Each time a person recognizes and obeys a warning from God, they build confidence in His guidance and develop a deeper trust in His ability to protect, direct, and provide. This trust creates a cycle in which the heart becomes increasingly receptive to divine instruction. Over time, discernment transforms the way a person navigates life, making it easier to recognize blessings, avoid pitfalls, and step into opportunities that were previously hidden. Those who cultivate discernment learn that God's warnings are not obstacles, but invitations to alignment, protection, and purpose. The idea that immediate action prevents loss emphasizes the critical importance of responding promptly to God's warnings. Often, God's guidance comes with a sense of urgency, a subtle or strong prompting to stop, reconsider, or change direction. When a person heeds this prompt without delay, they protect themselves from unnecessary setbacks, danger, or missed opportunities. Delaying action, even for seemingly reasonable reasons, can allow circumstances to worsen, create unnecessary challenges, or cause blessings to slip away. Immediate action is not about hasty decisions made in panic. It is about recognizing God's timing and responding with faith and obedience, trusting that His wisdom surpasses human understanding. God's warnings frequently serve as protective measures designed to shield a person from harm that may not yet be visible. For instance, a warning may come as an uneasy feeling, a recurring thought, or a delay in plans that feels inconvenient at the moment. Ignoring this guidance can result in exposure to emotional, financial, or spiritual setbacks that could have been avoided. Immediate response to God's warnings allows the person to pause, reassess, and make choices aligned with divine wisdom rather than relying solely on human reasoning. In essence, acting swiftly under divine direction is a form of spiritual preparedness that safeguards the path ahead. Another aspect of immediate action is the preservation of blessings. Opportunities, relationships, and divine favor are oftentimes sensitive. God's warning may be a signal to let go of a situation, take a specific step, or change approach so that blessings are not delayed or lost. Hesitation or procrastination can create a gap between God's timing and human action, reducing the impact or effectiveness of the opportunity. By responding quickly, a person positions themselves to receive the fullness of God's provision, protection, and guidance without unnecessary interference from circumstances or opposition. Immediate action also strengthens spiritual discipline and faith. When a person consistently obeys God's warnings without hesitation, their sensitivity to His voice increases and their confidence in His guidance deepens. They learn to trust that prompt action, even in uncertain circumstances, aligns them with God's purpose. Each experience of timely obedience reinforces the pattern of listening and responding, making future warnings easier to recognize and act upon. This cycle of responsiveness becomes a foundation for spiritual growth, resilience, and alignment with destiny. Additionally, immediate action prevents the compounding of errors. Many challenges in life escalate not because of the situation itself, but because early warnings were ignored. Small issues that could have been addressed with prayerful intervention often grow into larger crises when delayed. God's warnings act as a preventative mechanism, and responding promptly ensures that minor obstacles do not become major setbacks. This principle applies to decisions in finances, relationships, career, health, and spiritual matters, highlighting the comprehensive protective nature of divine guidance. Ultimately, responding immediately to God's warnings is a practical expression of trust, humility, and obedience. It demonstrates a willingness to prioritize divine insight over human impulse, and it creates a pathway for God to intervene in a timely and powerful way. Those who act swiftly under God's guidance discover that they are not only protected from loss, but also positioned to receive breakthroughs, clarity, and favor that would otherwise be delayed or diminished. Immediate action transforms warnings into opportunities and ensures that God's purpose is fulfilled without unnecessary hindrance. The idea that God's warnings are opportunities for growth emphasizes that divine guidance is not only about protection, but also about shaping character and redirecting life toward purpose. Every warning from God carries a dual purpose: to prevent harm and to develop the person spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. When a person receives a warning, it is an invitation to reflect, adjust, and grow. This growth may occur through refining habits, correcting attitudes, improving relationships, or gaining deeper spiritual insight. Recognizing warnings as opportunities transforms the perception of caution from restriction or threat into a stepping stone for development and alignment with God's plan. God often uses warnings to highlight areas of life that require attention or transformation. For example, repeated feelings of unease, persistent internal nudges, or external obstacles may reveal behaviors, thought patterns, or decisions that are misaligned with God's intended path. By responding to these alerts, a person engages in self-examination and reflection, which fosters maturity and wisdom. The warning becomes a tool for identifying weaknesses and cultivating strengths, ensuring that the individual is spiritually and emotionally equipped for the next season of life. In this way, divine guidance functions as both instruction and education, preparing the heart and mind for greater responsibilities and opportunities. These opportunities for growth also manifest in the refinement of decision-making. When a person learns to pause and discern God's warning before acting, they develop the skill of making choices based on wisdom and spiritual insight rather than impulse or emotion. Each warning that is heeded strengthens discernment, enabling more accurate and timely responses in future situations. Over time, this practice cultivates a habit of alignment with divine will, reducing the likelihood of repeated mistakes and increasing the capacity to handle challenges with faith and clarity. Warnings from God also create space for character development. They encourage patience, humility, obedience, and perseverance. For instance, a warning to delay a decision or to step back from a tempting situation tests a person's ability to trust God over immediate gratification. Responding appropriately builds resilience and fortitude, preparing the individual for circumstances that require endurance and faith. Each challenge avoided or redirected through God's warning becomes an exercise in spiritual strength, producing a character capable of sustaining the blessings and responsibilities that lie ahead. Furthermore, these moments often reveal hidden opportunities. A warning that initially seems restrictive may be God's way of opening doors to new avenues, relationships, or insights that would have been missed otherwise. By following the caution, the individual is redirected into situations where growth, learning, and blessings intersect. The warning, therefore, is not merely a preventative measure, but a mechanism for orchestrating positive transformation. Ultimately, understanding that God's warnings are opportunities for growth encourages a receptive and humble spirit. It shifts the focus from fear or frustration to gratitude and awareness. Those who embrace this perspective recognize that every divine caution, pause, or redirection is a deliberate act of love, designed not only to protect, but also to shape, equip, and guide them into a fuller expression of their destiny. Each warning becomes a doorway to maturity, alignment, and readiness for the next season. As we come to the close of this message, remember that God's warnings are not meant to scare you, restrict you, or hold you back. They are divine signals of love, guidance, and protection. Every impression, every stirring in your heart, every circumstance that feels like a pause or a red flag is a way for God to align you with your purpose and safeguard your destiny. Ignoring these warnings can delay your breakthrough, but responding with faith, discernment, and immediate action opens the door to protection, favor, and supernatural blessing. Your attentiveness today can prevent loss tomorrow and position you for the extraordinary season God has prepared for you. This is your moment to stop, listen, and obey. Don't dismiss the nudges you feel. Don't rationalize the warnings. Take them seriously, act on them faithfully, and watch as God intervenes in ways beyond your understanding. Each warning is an opportunity to grow, to refine your character, and to step fully into alignment with His plan. The blessings, clarity, and protection that come from obedience are immeasurable, and they set the stage for a life filled with divine favor and purpose. Thank you for opening your heart and giving this message the attention it deserves. I pray that you walk away today with a renewed sensitivity to God's voice, courage to act immediately, and the assurance that every warning you heed positions you for breakthrough. May your steps be guided, your decisions be protected, and your destiny be aligned with the plan God has ordained for you. Good luck as you step into this new season of awareness and obedience. And thank you for being part of this moment. Your breakthrough is closer than you realize.